All right, time to shift gears a little bit. I am so excited to introduce our special guest speaker tonight. This guy's heart is as big as his body is. He's an NFL veteran, stuntman, actor, artist, recovery advocate. Amazing story. He really lives the 12th step in his life, so perfect speaker for tonight as we focus on step 12. Do me a favor, give it up for Mr. Jeff Hatch. Jeff, come on down. Woo!
How y'all doing? What a room, man. What a room. Cool. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here, man, for real. So I don't have a ton of time with you, so I'm just going to dive in, and I really want to kind of speak tonight a little bit to the topic at hand, which is step 12. But I want to identify first so you know I'm not just some dude up here talking about recovery, right? So my name's Jeff, I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is September 18th of 2017. That is not my first sobriety date, but it is my current one, and God willing, it'll be my last one. Right? And I want to kind of breeze through the early part of my life to get to the juicy stuff, but I will tell you guys this, I think I was probably born with this thing, this spiritual malady. And I was pretty determined to achieve my way out of it. I had this thought, I had this idea that I would accomplish enough stuff, get enough things, that then I would feel better about myself inside. And so I set about trying to do that. I found alcohol at 13. That was a wonderful solution to the problem with me. But I always had in my mind, this is only a temporary solution. I'm going to get to the other side of this when I get all this stuff. And so I'll fast forward to when I was 22 years old. I had been a first-team All-American in college and was a third-round draft pick of the New York Giants in 2002. I didn't get to pick the team, so if you hate them, I'm sorry. You don't get to pick that. I had graduated from an Ivy League school with a triple major. I had won the President's Award for Community Service. And I had checked all these boxes. I had signed my $1 million contract. I had my Navigator with 24s on it. I had my diamonds. I had it all, right? I had all the stuff and the things. And I still hated myself. And I went, oh no. Now what? And I didn't know what the now what was. I didn't have any idea. I didn't even know what I was dealing with yet. I still didn't know that I had alcoholism. It wasn't until 4 years later I had a spinal fusion, had to retire from the NFL, and 2 months later I ended up in treatment. It was February 2006. I got introduced to a 12-step program. I got introduced to this thing called recovery, and I grabbed hold of it. And I stayed sober for almost 8 years. In that time, I had, gone out to Los Angeles to go to grad school, started doing acting and stunt work. I'll tell you like a funny story about that really quick. So I had taken an acting class, and they were like, you need to put a profile up on this free website. So naturally, I put a picture up of me in my Giants uniform because I'm like, this will get them to want to bring me in for an audition. I get a call to audition for a Disney show called I'm in the Band. You've never heard of it, okay? It was on Disney X, which is like the teen Disney channel, and it was these 4 guys in a band and this kid with them. And the episode I was auditioning for, they were going to have 4 giant versions of the guys in the band and 4 little person versions of the guys in the band, and we were going to fight each other. I booked the role, and so I ended up working on that with some other big guys, one of which was the double for the Hulk, one of which was the 6'10" dude who's in Mensa named Dave Matty, who's been in a gazillion things. And long story short, they got me involved in the world of like stunt work because there's just not a ton of big guys who want to get knocked over, and I was happy to do that. I did that, and I ended up hurting myself. I had to get a total knee replacement. And when I went into that surgery, I want to say this really quickly. One of the things that's so important to me in this iteration of sobriety for me is the capacity to be completely forthright and honest with you guys. Because I have to be that with you. I have to be that with myself. I have to be the authentic version of me every day. And if I'm not, I'm on the path to destruction. So in so doing, I'll tell you that for years when I told my story, I said I tried to do everything I could prior to getting that knee replacement to prevent myself from relapsing. But now, as I continue to practice these principles and do the next right thing and get closer and closer to the higher power, the God that I understand, the real truth of the matter is, I think I thought I had a free one. You know, I can get this knee replacement surgery. I have to be on opiates afterwards. No one can really say anything because it's recovery. The problem was, when I clicked that button after I woke up from that surgery, that monster reawoke. And y'all, who in here knows what monster I'm talking about? See, that's why I love y'all. Because I don't have to tell you exactly what I'm talking about. You know. You know what that feels like. And I didn't say anything. I didn't tell anyone. I held it inside because I thought I was Captain Recovery and I couldn't expose the fact that I had problems or issues anymore, right? I'm supposed to be helping people. I can't have this going on. And I'll fast forward to, a long run of about 4 years where I justified continually taking opiates because I told myself I have chronic pain, I've had a spinal fusion, a total knee replacement, I have every reason in the world, I'm doing it as it's prescribed, all these stories. Until I get to a place where I'm trafficking heroin and I get arrested. Yeah. Because that's how it goes for me. Because what happens is I do the prescriptions for a long time, but then one day I go, you know what, heroin would be a lot easier for me to get, and it's going to do the same thing. And so I go pick up some heroin. Well, then I'm spending all my money at the dealer, and then he says, why don't you go down the highway 4 exits and pick up my load and bring it back to me, and I'll give you your personal use amount for free. And that sounds like a great idea. Until I get arrested. And that was a big wake-up call. My sobriety date, September 18th of 2017, I woke up that morning to a knock at my door that was not a friendly knock. And it was the DEA, the FBI, and the New Hampshire State Police. And life got really real really fast, I don't need to get into all that, but I'll be honest with you guys, you can Google me and find out. Yeah. It's not... I'll tell you what, I just want you to, and it is funny, I'm cool with it, it's part of my story, it is what it is, but I do want to say, I want you to imagine if you were me, if the worst thing that you ever did in your entire life was the first thing that came up when someone searched for you on the internet. That's my reality. And I'm totally cool with that, because look, it gets me the opportunity to come in front of you guys and talk about this stuff. And I get to show up in the world, and when someone gets to know me, and then they find that out, they go, wow, that's crazy. No, it's not. There's people like me all over the place. You just don't know it because they're not Googleable. You know what I'm saying? So, I was lucky enough, God's grace, to get sober a second time. And this time for me, it's been different. And I want to tell you why it's been different. It's been different because instead of it being about me, because the first time I got sober, man, I did it because I wanted to feel better. I wanted everyone off my back, right? I just didn't want to feel the way I felt anymore. I wanted everyone to chill out. I wanted to have a nice life. That's what I wanted. That's not the end. That's the beginning of this thing. The other side of that, the key that has unlocked the door to willingness for me, has been making it about being useful and helpful to my fellows, which is what that Step 12 talks about. Carrying the message to other alcoholics, yes, practicing these principles in all my affairs. That means every day when I walk out into the world, I am a representation of what a man in long-term sobriety looks like. I may be the only one that people ever see. And so when I go to the grocery store and I'm checking out, I make eye contact with that person, right? I ask them how they are. I want to know what they do. I know that Mark, who works at the grocery store that I go to every week, his kid plays soccer. And he's pretty good. I care, and that's not of me. I'm not saying that because I'm trying to tell you that, hey, look at me and look how I live my life. I'm trying to tell you that because that's the miracle that comes with doing this thing. Now, when I say doing this thing, I want to be very specific about what that means, because a lot of times people will talk about recovery and they'll say, well, how good's your program? Or you got a good program, you got a bad program, your program. Well, what is it? What are we talking about? Because I thought for the longest time it was having a CNO, sponsor in name only, and going to some meetings, and that was it. And it's just not when you get to the 12th step, right? What it becomes about at that point is carrying the message, man. Being a vessel. And I couldn't do that when it was about me. Because I could do it for a little while, but I get tired. You know, when it's selfish, when it's about me, I get worn out on myself. I don't know about y'all, I get tired of thinking about me. But what I learned this time around was that when I make it about you guys, when it becomes about something bigger than me, my life has purpose and meaning. I'm useful and helpful in the world. Miraculous things happen all the time. I call them God winks, and I'm going to tell you a few of them just because it's really cool, man. The first one is this. Talk about grocery stores. When my wife and I lived in Savannah, Georgia, which is where we moved after we were basically kicked out of New Hampshire. Not really, but we did need to leave. I mean, that stuff all came out and it was on CNN, and then I'm trying to go to the grocery store and I'm 6'7", I weigh 300 pounds. It's not like anybody's not knowing who it is. So we went down to Savannah, we moved down there, we're in the grocery store, and we're in the Publix that we go to, and we're checking out one day, and this guy, so my wife is 5'1", so I look even taller when I'm next to her. And so oftentimes if we're out, someone will say to me like, do you play sports? Are you a wrestler? Something along those lines. And I'm like, always will just play, I'll be like, yeah, I play badminton. You know what I mean? I'm a wicked squash player, you should see me. But this guy was really on me. And he was like, you play football? I was like, I did. Where'd you play? And so I told him the high school I played at, the Severn School. Did you play after high school? I did. Where did you play? I played at the University of Pennsylvania. Did you play after college? And I look at my wife, and she's like, just tell him. I was like, I did. I played for the Giants and the Bucks. What's your name? Now, football, cool, but he's going to look me up. And we're going to have to find a new grocery store. Well, but seriously, because now I'm a heroin trafficker, right? The whole Publix is going to know that that's who I am, right? And so we leave that day, and I'm pretty upset. I mean, I'm not mad, but I'm a little frustrated at the fact that I now have to find a whole new grocery store to navigate. I knew exactly where everything was at this place. You know, you got your path you take, you get, and now I got to do it all over again. What a bummer. And I woke up the next day, and there was an email in my inbox from a name I didn't recognize. And it was that guy from the grocery store. And he said, Jeff, I want to let you know I've been sober for 12 years. I read your story. I'm so glad you made it back. Come on, man. That was a powerful moment for me, you know? That was powerful because it was this idea that, I don't know about you guys, but I tell myself stories that aren't true. And they're never good ones. They're always bad ones. And that's just not the reality. It's somewhere in the middle. So what does my day look like now? My sponsor is very demanding of having a morning routine if you want to maintain sobriety and recovery. And so every morning when I wake up, before I get out of bed, I pray, I meditate, and I read spiritual text. Every day. No fail. Do not cut myself slack. Cannot cut myself slack. If I cut myself slack, I will die. And it took my relapse to reinforce that for me. So I'm not saying it has to be this way for you. I'm just saying for me, this is what's required, right? So I wake up and I do that. I have a home group. I have a sponsor who I'm in regular communication with. I sponsor other men in AA. Just picked up 2 sponsees Monday night at my home group. Psyched about one of them, kind of nervous about the other one, but it's all good. I make recovery is the center, and my life revolves around that. And I want to tell you something that may not sound appetizing to some of you, but I promise you, it's awesome. It really is, man. The best relationships I have in my life, the best friends I have are other sober people. They really are. They're incredible human beings, and we have a great time. I go to a lot of meetings. I eat at a lot of food trucks before. It's a lot of fun. We kick it. We talk about life. It's not silly conversations about nonsense. We're talking about growing spiritually, living a life centered around this process and the higher power we identify with, right? Another little quick tidbit. So sometimes I get to do these things. I get to go talk at places. It's really cool. I'm incredibly grateful to do it. I probably wouldn't get to do it if I didn't play in the NFL, and I don't forget that. So I try to take advantage of the opportunity, especially not when I'm in rooms like this, but when I'm in rooms with people who don't know people like us. I try to really express to them who we are and what this thing's about, right? I did a talk a couple months ago, and they introduced me, and they said that start. They were like, he's graduated from an Ivy League school, played in the NFL, and he's a federal felon, and everyone laughed. And I was like, oh, this is going to be good. This is cool. And it was great. But I did a talk about a year ago for a big meeting that happens up in Portland. We live in Vancouver, Washington, which is just over the border from Portland, Oregon. So a lot of meetings there in Portland. I spoke on this meeting. They put it on Spotify. Whatever. There's probably 2 million AA talks on Spotify. Cool. About 3 months later, I get a call out of the blue. And it's a guy I haven't spoken to in 20 years. He was one of my teammates in college. And we'd actually lived in the same house. 13 football players. We lived in a house together, and me and this dude were the basement dwellers. So he was a close friend of mine. And we grew into men together. I hadn't talked to him in 20 years. He calls me up and he says, Jeff, I wanted to call you and let you know that I got sober a year and a half ago. I said, Chris, that's so cool, man. I'm super happy for you. And he's like, but I want to tell you why I'm calling you. I said, why? He lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. He said, I was going home from work the other day, and I got in my car, and I said, Siri, play me an AA talk on Spotify. And your talk came on. What? I'm telling you, probably 2 million talks. What are the odds that this friend of mine who's across the country, that's what comes on for him? And what a great connection. It's been really cathartic for me to have that connection with somebody from that period of my life, because a lot of the guys I went to college with have gone on to have different lives than I have had. I guess we would call them safer lives than I've had, for better or worse, right? To reconnect with somebody in that context from that piece of my life was really, really cool. And I stay in close contact with him now. He calls me and asks me, one of the things about sponsorship I always tell guys, I'll just be honest with you too, is we always talk about it, like, you want to have the manifestation of your character defects, go sponsor other people and take them through the work. Because when the phone rings, perfect example, this afternoon. I flew down this morning because it was the only flight I could get. So I landed I got up at 3:30, got down here, had a couple work meetings, went to the gym, went to the hotel and checked in, and I was super excited because I was going to take a little nap. Does anyone else like naps in here? Come on. I'm not talking about the whole day, but just a little tiny bit of time. Oh, come on. And I check into the hotel, I walk into my room, and my phone rings. And it's a sponsee. And he's going through a crisis. And so I ended up spending an hour on the phone with him when I wanted to be sleeping. And I'll tell you something, man. I think probably the first time I got sober, if I had been in that situation and that phone rang, I would have let it go to voicemail. I'm just being real with you. I probably would have done that. But I don't do that today. And that's not because of me. That's because of this thing, this recovery process, this program of recovery that gets me to a place where I really do. I wake up and I'm excited to be alive. I can't wait to see how I'm going to get used today by God. And life is really, really, really good, man. I'm just coming through a period of time. The end of September, I celebrated 7 years. Beginning of October, thanks, yeah. October 8th, my wife celebrated 11 years. And October 7th, we celebrated our 1-year wedding anniversary. Now, that's a woman who, I came home a year and a half into our relationship and sat down on a couch next to her and said, hey, there's something I need to tell you. I'm getting charged with a federal felony that you don't know anything about. And she was like, really? But what she also said was, look, that's not the guy I've ever known. I'm going to stick with you, and I'm going to ride with you through this whole thing. And it was a really difficult experience, but she's my ride or die, you know what I mean? And I just say that because, look, man, like, this is like, I never want to sit up here and tell you the gifts of sobriety are the material things, because it's really not about that. You know, I hear people say sometimes, the promises came true. I got this awesome job, I got a car, I got a house. Okay, that's not what I came for. I came to love myself again so that I could love you, right? I came to find a solution to the spiritual malady that was eating me up from the inside. The only solution I had was to numb myself from the world, to get out of my own head. And it's not like that anymore. And I am not special or different. I am just like y'all. We are the same. And that is awesome, because that means that you have the exact same opportunity I do to wake up tomorrow, do the next right thing, be useful and helpful, and live a purpose greater than you probably ever thought you would have. And I'll tell you truthfully, I didn't think when I was growing up that I would be an alcoholic in recovery talking in front of a group of people on a Friday night. I thought I was going to, like, you know, well, if you ask my mom, she named me Jeffrey Paul Hatch because she thought I sounded like a vice president. Not the president, a vice president. So I probably thought something like that. But you know, how miraculous and beautiful life is, that these things I experienced that really created a lot of pain in me and in the lives of the people around me are now the greatest asset I have. And so I want to say this to you guys before I shut it down for the night. You have experienced all the pain and suffering you ever need to experience. You've already done it. If you want to make a change that lasts forever, use that to help somebody else. Because that has transformed the way I feel about the things that have happened to me. That's why I can stand up here and tell you, yes, I am a federal felon. I trafficked heroin. I don't do that today, right? I help people today. I'm useful in the world. And that opportunity is here for all of us. And I'm sure there's a lot of you in this room, I'm preaching to the choir, you're already doing that. But I saw a lot of newcomers get up to get chips tonight. And I just want to give you guys some hope that there is a solution. It requires a lot of work. It is not fast. If you're like me, you like immediate gratification. That is not what this is. Sit in your seat and hold on. And I promise you miraculous things will happen. I promise you. Thank you, guys.
Give it up for Mr. Jeff Hack. Woo! Boom! Yes. All right.